It's a very warm welcome to all our viewers and welcome to a new edition of the World of Books. Of course, today we're joined by our renowned guest, engineer Hassan Shaban, who is the assistant to the chair of Al Wafd Party, who will be telling us a lot more about his favorite books, his readings, as well as his writings. So do stay tuned. We have lots more coming up. Engineer Hassan Shaban, born in 1947 on October the 1st in Giza Governorate. He attended regular Arabic schools but spent his childhood at the United States of America. Engineer Shaban graduated from Cairo University, the Faculty of Engineering, as a civil engineer in 1970. He attended postgraduate and did his master's degree at the Louisiana State University in New Orleans in 1974. He then moved to Iran and worked at an offshore Arabian Gulf till right before the Iranian Revolution. Then he moved to Dubai and Abu Dhabi in 1981. Engineer Hassan Shaban returned home and started a business as a contractor. He entered political life through being a minister in the shadow cabinet of Al Wafd Party. Then he became assistant to the chair of Al Wafd Party, as well as assistant in the establishment of the Syndicate of Farmers under the late Muhammad Abdel Qadir. Engineer Shaban wrote in Al Wafd Party newspaper as well as Al Masri Al Yom. He's currently working on a collection of his articles to be published in a book, The Cultural Revolution, the absent part of the Egyptian Revolution. Engineer Hassan Shaban, assistant to the chairman of Al Wafd Party, many thanks for joining us on today's episode of The World Today. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's a privilege.
Right, so today, of course, you have prepared a few books that you're going to discuss and tell us all about, and the importance of these books, not just in your political practices, but also in your own daily life, how you benefit from them, and also how you've used them to influence your thinking as well as your writing.
Actually, being a civil engineer and I practice politics, I needed to educate myself. I just needed to know why. Why do we suffer today? Do we have a history of suffering? What is the nature of relationship between us and certain nations? What are the relationship between the present, the past, and the future? And I tried to pick up few books that I find very interesting to the Egyptian reader who wants to educate himself and know how could we develop our country. How did we start some time ago, and it was a very promising start when Muhammad Ali Pasha started the new Egypt, the modern Egypt. How did he start that? What did he achieve? What are the obstacles that he faced? And the nature of a relationship between us and the United States way back then. A lot of people do not know that we have a very old relationship with the U.S. and very interesting information are included in these books. That I will be happy to review these books
Great.
with you.
Let's begin with the first one by the author Khalid Fahmy. Is that correct?
Dr. Khalid Fahmy is a political science professor in the American University in Cairo, and he wrote this magnificent book about all the Pasha's men. It's a description for Muhammad Ali's era, his army, and how did he start to develop new Egypt. And I think this is a very interesting book because we need to know how to start. A good start, the right start, leads to very happy endings and successful endings. And I hate to see us reinvent the wheel. As long as we have a successful experience during that time with limited resources relative to the technology, relatively speaking to the technology that we have today, I think if we have a good solid plan, we could develop Egypt the way we want, especially. Muhammad Ali wanted to build a modern army, and he depended on the Egyptians to build such an army. And to build an army, he couldn't find the tools, the basic elements, how to build an army, how to make a uniform for the army, how to train the armament, the personnel, health, education. So he found that Egypt is empty. So he started to put up all these organizations together that could produce the personnel that he could utilize in a modern army, and that policy have proved two things: that that he was right in depending on the Egyptians to form this army, and of course his son Ibrahim Pasha invaded a lot of areas in Africa, and even he went all the way to the borders of the Ottoman Empire, and he was Napoleon of the Middle East, or our great army leader. So the second thing, or a byproduct for forming a modern army, the organizations that he actually created, like okay, the Egyptians are very unhealthy, and there is a lot of a high percentage of blindness. So he would make a hospital, a great hospital like Asr al-Aini Hospital. He started fighting illiteracy, schools, started to manufacture his own armament industry, an arsenal in Rud al-Farag to build a navy. All of these elements were the basic thing that Egypt used to build modern Egypt. Later on, of course, his family continued. Khedive Ismail, the great Khedive Ismail, continued what his father have done. But again, the elements of modern Egypt that Muhammad Ali made was made just to produce a strong modern army that a lot of people or a lot of nations in the area and in Europe had to form an ally. You know, Muhammad Ali was his navy was defeated in the Mediterranean, in Navarine, and he fought British, French, German, Prussia, and Turkish navy. All of these four navies actually fought Muhammad Ali and broke him just to control Egypt. So I would recommend, as long as we are coming to an era where we are going to build new modern Egypt, we might as well use the past experience. Our army is there. We already have a modern army. So we've done 90% of the task.
Work, yeah.
What the remaining thing is discipline. We need discipline. We need to see how did our army manage to protect us, though we fell down after our first revolution. So our army is a good example. We need to use the experience of our army and his economical establishments, the way he was self-sufficient, so he would be able to face any pressures from outside or inside, financial, anything. We have an independent army, and the personnel we have in the army today are very educated, healthy, so we do not need the establishments that Muhammad Ali have done, but we need the style, the methods that Muhammad Ali started, and I hope that this book could add a lot to anybody who would read it.
Indeed. Indeed. Engineer Shaban, you also told me the second book you have is related in a way to the first book, or continues it in some way.
Yes. Actually, this book is a group of documents gathered from the library of the American Congress. And it is part of a PhD by Lenoir Chambers White. And actually, this document is very important, in my opinion, to anybody who wants to know how did our relationship with the United States started. And of course, we know what we are facing today with the United States, though we are considered an ally to the United States of America, but we have some hiccups, and I think we will get over that. But anybody who will read this book, and it's published by a governmental publishing bureau, هيئة الكتاب المصري, I think this is a very, very important book. It includes a lot of very interesting information regarding economical relations with the United States, cultural, military, though that relationship started way before the British occupation to Egypt. You see, when Muhammad Ali started our development plan, he was lucky because he depended on growing cotton in Egypt, and cotton was the white gold. Cotton was being cultivated in the United States at that time, but due to the civil war that took place in the United States, all the slaves ran away from the cotton fields. So the British brought the cotton seeds to Egypt, and it worked out that Muhammad Ali managed to reclaim the land of the Delta and Said, and we started to grow cotton in Egypt, and the government became very wealthy at that time. Okay, so due to the American problem, the civil war in the United States, we actually benefited a lot in Egypt. Later on, after the civil war in the United States was over, a lot of the army staff in the South decided they will not join the army, the United States Army, after peace, and Muhammad Ali brought some of them to Egypt to train our army. And actually a lot of these officers remained, the southern officers remained in Egypt for quite some time, as they had a grudge against the UK. And the UK was applying a lot of pressure over Egypt. So the American southern officers found out that this is a good chance for them to get back at the UK by training the Egyptian personnel and army. Maybe they could get their revenge, their vendetta, if
through the Egyptian army.
Through the Egyptians. And
Right.
actually it could have happened, but you know, it was the task was too big for Egypt, and you know, the plot was so.
It's a very interesting book
Very
to give a
interesting
background
yes,
as well.
it's a very interesting book, and I think it's a good base to reevaluate our relationship with the United States.
Absolutely.
And I think this is why we enjoy, or the Army enjoys, an excellent relationship with the Pentagon, while the American administration is a little bit crossed with us, because it is our relationship with the Pentagon is way stronger than
the actual
right,
American